Hello and welcome back to Radio Free Urbanism, a podcast about urbanism and stuff.
And
Oh, that was way worse
Sully,
than last
you were
week.
so late on that one. My goodness.
Oops.
So I am joined here. My name is Nick Laporte. I'm joined here by Ethan Myers.
Great to be back here for a wonderful show where we talk about urbanism.
And Sully of
stuff.
Sullyville. They can't
Listen, we're not a
can't
boy
hear
band,
waves.
okay? We're not in sync.
I like the waving at the camera, just like if you wave hard enough, you might be able to hear it.
We're going nonverbal, so
Yeah.
that way we can torture all the audio listeners.
God. Sounds like a great time. Well,
Look at this incredible thing that I'm holding.
let's not waste any
Wow,
time
that's a
here.
beautiful thing there.
Ethan, you got the first story.
Yes, I do have the first story. And so this comes to us from Amtrak themselves. So, a few of you train nerds might have known this, but all the way back, I believe in the big year of 2017, Amtrak announced that they were getting new train sets for their one higher speed rail service along the Northeast Corridor called the Acela Express. They announced these as a revolutionary new piece of rolling stock. It was going to be incredible to ride on, a lot of new features, and to replace a already aging rolling stock back in 2017. The Acelas were quite dated, very, very 90s and 2000s coded, very Y2K looking on the inside. Not something that was holding up very well in the year 2017. So they decided to get these new train sets from the company Alstom. They were initially scheduled to come out around 2021, and there was a lot of hype that, we'd be getting these train sets then. It's now 2025, and these train sets are still not in service. However, we did just get some excellent news from Amtrak, and that they will be rolling out this service starting August 28th with the first runs of what are known as the Avelias. These next-gen Acelas are going to have improved accessibility features to them. They're going to have wider spacing in the area walking through like corridors on the trains themselves to actually get to their seating. They're going to have improved technology on board, LED screens throughout the train. They're also going to have outlets at every seat that are much more accessible now as well too. Improved rider experience overall, as well as increased amounts of seating on board. These are longer train sets than the initial ones. But it's taken us 5 long years to even get to this point from when they were initially supposed to be coming out. And these sets have suffered all kinds of major mechanical malfunctions. Alstom also wanted to do this really fun thing of sending these cars out to Amtrak service without having sent them anywhere else before. So this was an entirely new build for Amtrak that they had promised them within 3 years. Essentially meaning that they were trying to test a completely new design on Amtrak's route, which is made up of a lot of mixed infrastructure built out over nearly a century. So, it had to deal with a lot during testing, and there was a lot of quality issues on board as well, too, with the design. So it's a long process. We finally got these trains, but it really kind of shows like just how bad rail manufacturers have been, at least in the North American market as of recently. That's Nick has pulled up this image of these new train sets as well too.
So did they have level boarding?
They do have level boarding, but
Has that
the
been
older
standard
trains also
before?
that's
Okay.
been standard on the Northeast Corridor.
So is this like a
Can I just point
functional
out-
upgrade? Like is this the engine as well as the cars?
Yes, so everything is a complete new build from Alstom's old design. The older design was made by Bombardier back in the 90s and also had major mechanical issues. However, those sets were, I believe, pushing the end of their lifespans back in 2015. So they've been running a lot. The older models have been running a lot longer than they were ever expected to do so. These new models, though, are going to add on more seating to the actual trains themselves and make it a more comfortable experience for riders. It's part of,
There's more seating.
Yes, there is more seating. These are longer consists.
27% more seats per
So-
departure.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, Sully. Please.
Will any speed be gained, Ethan, with these, or is that not really the
Yes,
point?
so technically these things can go much faster than the existing Acela train sets. I believe the initial plan was to run them as high as 160 miles per hour in certain segments. And I believe that if the funding and the track improvement was done, I think Amtrak said something about potential 220-mile-an-hour service on portions of the corridor, which would be a insane improvement. Now, there's been not much said about that. There has been talk about the 160-mile-an-hour service in certain sections. The current max right now is 150 on this corridor, but there are some major gaps in that type of service. There's a lot of sections where the track is actually very high speed between New York and DC. However, the sections between, I believe, about Rhode Island and Connecticut are really where these where the corridor sees some major speed issues. But the train sets themselves are going to be quite modern. We'll see how long it takes for them to actually roll out. If they're actually going to meet this date as well, too. You know, they've been pushing this back for nearly 5 years, so it wouldn't surprise me if there was some sort of rollback on this date as well. But who knows? Who knows, honestly? And who knows how long it's going to take for all of these sets to get in service and eventually replace the old Acela sets.
By the time they all get
I
rolled
also
out, they're
like
going to
that the
need something
website.
else.
The website is called the Amtrak Media Center, which, speaking of Y2K sounding things,
Oh yeah,
that sounds pretty dated.
I
It's
need
like,
a.
It sounds like a Blockbuster on the train. Like you can go in, they have like a little selection of movies you can pick from.
You're right.
It does.
Yeah, it sounds like, yeah, like the Delta Airlines Media Center. Yeah, like on either, on the back of the seat or something, or no, knowing that it's Amtrak, it would be a bunch of VHS tapes on a shelf in the corner.
They got Betamax rolling in there.
All right, so these were the older trains. Actually, wrong tab there.
Let me guess. They've blamed COVID as one of the reasons it was set back.
I believe that was partially a part of it. Everybody blames the pandemic, though. That's
I was going to
just
say, have
kind
you
of
guys noticed this? I'm going to coin a new term right now. Maybe it's already been coined, but freaking pandemic blaming. The thing is, the pandemic lasted like 2 years if you're being generous, and this 5 years thing. So, like, at what point are people going to stop freaking
Yeah,
pandemic
it's going to be like
blaming? You know, it's
2035.
like, oh, I'm late on my homework. I'm late on my homework because of the pandemic. You know, like what? Like,
have you seen
come
the
on,
butterfly
guys.
effect? Okay, this is all connected.
So these are
Yeah,
some
I
of the
don't know.
older seatings on the old Acela train set. So just a little worse for wear.
Yeah.
One of the funniest things they did was they took some of the older leather from the seats because they kind of gave them an overhaul in, I believe, like 2012. But they took the upholstery from the seating and actually turned it into like luggage for like people to buy.
That's pretty neat.
Yeah, it was actually really neat to see that. I believe
Hmm.
they were pretty expensive for luggage pieces, but it was really cool to actually see that. And I know there's someone out there with one of those sets of luggage, and I'm really jealous of them.
Oh, it's wild.
Yeah, that's
I love
better
that.
than the old school bus duct tape treatment.
Oh yeah,
Yeah,
You're right. It's totally like 2000s coated with like the faded gray plastic.
oh it's so Y2K. They had
the
old
navy
like
colors.
CRT TVs in the wall as well too.
Oh man,
And these things were running. Yeah, they're still running.
it's impressive, honestly.
what do you
thing
think
is,
the oldest train sets in operation in North America?
it's got to be
prob-
some kind of.
It might be the LRVs that Via Rail operates, like just for like standard commercial service. Like it might be the LRVs that Via operates on the corridor.
I wouldn't be surprised. Yep.
Let me also show you guys how this interior looks on this new train, though. Here's some of the new Acela interiors. So a lot more modern looking. I believe this is first class because it's 2x1. But these Acela trains are they're a much more luxury experience than the standard corridor trains. They skip a lot more stops, and there's only business class and first class on board these trains.
Oh, fancy class.
Yeah,
It's
so
a fancy train.
it's a lot more upscale of an experience than the other corridor trains, which are running on AM fleets. So there's
Almost
quite
looks like Europe.
almost I mean
Just to boot.
It kind of does because they are made by Europeans.
You know,
Alstom is a French company.
you know what I really did like about some of the trains in Europe? I can't remember where this was. It might have been in Germany. But they had actually spots on the back of the seats for your phone or tablet to go into. And I was like, why isn't this just like standard on planes? Everybody's watching stuff on their phones anyway. I know if sometimes they just don't have anything. If they have a TV thing that you can hook your Bluetooth to, that's great and everything. But like just being able to put your phone somewhere is fantastic. I've got this little hack. I've got these sticky things that usually go on those GoPro attachments that you can stick to things. Just the sticky part, I put it on the back of my phone and then I put it on the back of my seat. And that works pretty well. But I'm just saying that's definitely a bonus. I think they should include on most trains and airplanes. I think that'd be.
I
nice.
will say one thing though: European designers cannot make a comfortable seat. They are really bad at trying to make seat designs.
I wonder
This
what it
is
is
because they are not heavier set like us North Americans, so they do not understand comfort.
Europeans can't understand the North American form.
They can't understand the beauty that is the Superliner coach seat. It is just a lazy boy recliner on a train in coach class. It is a beautiful thing. As much as North America's railroad sucks, we have better seating, and I think that's a beautiful thing.
There's the one better thing. I will say though, I rode the brand new electric Caltrains almost a year ago now. I was there the week that they started. And the seats on that thing, I think, were meant to torture people. I think they took the electric chairs out of old prisons, thinly veiled them in upholstery, and stuck them on these electric trains.
Do you know who made the design for those trains? Do you know who made the design for those trains?
Europeans.
It was the Swiss.
Europeans.
Yes. Stadler made those trains, so we can blame the Europeans for that one. The newer Amtrak trains are also made by Europeans, so these Avelias that we showed off, we'll have to see how the comfort is. Same with the new Amtrak Arrows that are coming to the Northwest. So we'll have to see. These Europeans don't know how to make seats. That's my take for the show. If you take away anything,
I'm looking forward to your seat review when they finally are rolling along.
Yes, it will be coming out. It will be. You will hear a seat review, and I will compare it to the gold standard that is any seat on an Amtrak train that was made by Bud. So.
Are you going over there to ride the new Acela trains, Ethan?
Probably not in any time soon, but I will be taking the Arrows, which are Amtrak's trains that'll be introduced to regional service around the U.S. They're going to start in the Pacific Northwest. So,
lucky you!
Yeah, it's gonna be really fun.
That's cool.
When they eventually come out in service in 2030.
Oh boy!
No, it'll be 2026.
It was the pandemic.
It was the pandemic.
It always is.
It was post-pandemic woes. Everything just kind of hit us all at once.
Honey, did you remember to pick up dinner? Oh, no, the pandemic.
Oh, wow, this pandemic's really getting to me.
I love that. Yeah. Did you pick up the milk? Oh, no, COVID. No, sorry.
Long COVID kind of prevented me from making a grocery run tonight,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Now, I do have one more question about this story, Ethan.
Yeah.
Do you think there will ever actually be a review of what went wrong, why it's 5 years late, and lessons learned, or are they just going to move on and not think about it again?
I think, here's my speculation, I think Amtrak is done with Alstom. I don't think they're going to work with Alstom on contracts anymore. They've kind of shifted their focus away from working with them. I think the one thing that's kind of holding them down is this Northeast corridor specifically, because it's a massive infrastructure. It's over a century's worth of different railroads combined infrastructure all operating on one service. And the only agency that's really done that has been Alstom and Bombardier, but Bombardier got bought out by Alstom. So Alstom owns a lot of the tech to actually deal with this corridor. So I think that's one of the reasons why, if they do get new train sets, they'd return to them. But we'll see. I mean,
they're stuck with them, you're saying. How can they move away if they're stuck with them?
However, Siemens, the other manufacturer that Amtrak has bought from, they've also had their issues, but they've been a lot more time conscious with their product, and they've even made a really good rail vehicle for this corridor called the ACS 64. It's which you'll see pulling on the Northeast Corridor trains. They are probably the biggest competitor to Alstom in terms of Amtrak contracts. So we'll see. They might put in a bid for the Northeast Corridor sometime 10, 15 years from now. We'll just have to see if they actually want to, dip their toes into North American high-speed rail vehicles, because this is it's technically a high-speed rail corridor. It just comes with a lot of caveats of you have to deal with Connecticut and older, it is honestly one of the original high-speed rail corridors, and that's kind of the problem with it, is that it is just not been maintained to the level of other ones around the world. So it's got a lot of issues with it. It's got a lot of structural issues as well too. When you're dealing with technology that, or I mean, with infrastructure that's over a century old, that's been retrofitted to deal with fast and frequent trains, it's going to have a lot of issues.
Standard.
Right.
What's the deal with Connecticut,
Yeah.
though?
And
So Connecticut is probably the biggest issue with the Northeast Corridor, outside of maybe the tunnels into New York City. The track runs along the coast in Connecticut, and so it has to deal with a lot of curvature, which for high-speed trains is not exactly the greatest thing that you want to be dealing with. So there's a lot of weird infrastructure things in Connecticut that it has to deal with. Um, a lot of random turns on the trackage as well too, and yeah, just overall, just not a whole lot of straight trackage in Connecticut, and a lot of NIMBYs who live on the coast who wouldn't exactly be happy if there was some sort of major realignment along their coastal area. Like this
Nick,
is
have you
running
not
through.
heard of the Long Island Sound Tunnel idea?
No. What is this?
Ethan, you've heard of it.
Yes, I have heard of it. The Long Island Sound Tunnel is this concept to completely bypass Connecticut by running the Northeast Corridor up Long Island and then digging like a 30 or 40-mile long tunnel underneath the Long Island Sound up through Rhode Island and up to Boston. It is the most
There's precedent.
absurdist rail idea, but might be great.
Yeah, I mean, the channel, between France and England is definitely precedent for a very long underwater train tunnel. Like, it's
That is
possible.
true. Yes, it is possible.
It
It's
is
very
possible.
possible. It'd be very expensive, but it'd be worth it to give the middle finger to rich Connecticut coastal people.
Now, what about a tunnel under a highway for more cars?
That's true.
Wait a
Thank
minute.
you, Doug Ford. Very cool.
I was going to say, I
there's
think
been some
Nick's
other
been
proposed
replaced.
There have been other proposed alignments as well too. There's also one that would run it north up through Hartford and then east over to Boston. But yeah, this has been the major issue and why a lot of people don't consider it to be a high-speed rail corridor.
Just
It's
because
just
they
that
need to
trackage
avoid.
between New York and Boston.
Right.
Because average speeds between DC and New York City are actually quite high.
Honestly, though, like now I'm looking at it, and I'm like, this could be a great idea. Like, screw Stamford and Bridgeport and be like, guys, we're skipping you. You can blame the NIMBYs. We're going right past you. We're going up not Long Island.
Then you have to deal with another breed of NIMBYs, and that's the Long Island NIMBYs.
Yeah, that's a
and
whole
they are a whole different breed.
Yeah, that's true.
The Hamptons, NIMBYs, and such.
The track is electrified in Long Island. It's just
Okay.
third rail powered.
Oh. Okay.
Yeah.
So don't go peeing on it, basically.
No, yeah, it's got some issues. It's got some issues, but it's also one of the oldest railway. It's literally the Long Island Rail and then Space Road, because it's been around that long that they hadn't even gotten the naming down for
Yeah.
what a
No,
railway.
my dad grew up out there, and his father took that Long Island Railroad into the city every day. They moved out right next to Levittown, right after it was built. They had lived in the suburb that was built right next to it. So,
got in on the
Yeah.
suburbs at the ground floor.
oh yeah, let's see. That would have been in 57. So right at the ground floor. They bought their house for like $6,000. Yeah.
Oh my gosh.
Amazing. So there's like no connection from Long Island to Connecticut right now, right? I'm like,
There's ferry boats, but
I keep looking this up right now, or I'm looking it up right now. I keep seeing these dreams.
You can go
about
through New
the
York City.
bridges. Yeah. I guess no, that's still New York when it goes up to the Bronx from Queens. But yeah, anyway. Getting
Anyway,
off track here.
yeah, I think it's a good thing that Amtrak's getting these new train sets. I just think that they should maybe consider a new manufacturer for their next ones. on any
Yeah.
sort of corridor like this.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, that'd be cool. I hope you get to go out and check them out sooner than later once they're finally on the rails.
Oh yeah, definitely. But it looks like
Absolutely
we got another
awesome.
story here as well today too.
We
Nick.
do. This one's coming from me. This is here in Vancouver, and I think it's a story about NIMBYism, but it's also a story about art, and that's what I ultimately want to talk about. But there's this piece of art that used to be on display in Vancouver, and if I could explain it, it's basically a cedar log standing up with 5 cars stacked on top of each other. And it was there, I think, from 2015 or 2016, and was only there for a few years before it got moved because they were worried about construction that might be happening in the area, especially with the viaducts.
That doesn't even look real.
Yeah, it was a sight to behold, whether you're on the SkyTrain, while you're passing by, or you're biking by, or you're driving by. It's just like, I just love it. I don't know. What do you guys think of it when you see this?
It's pretty great, honestly. I just kind of, yeah, it's.
It makes me think of crushing car dependency. That's what, like, I'm not saying that's what it means, but to me, I'm like, fuck cars. But it's called.
It almost doesn't even look like it should work with the smallest one on the bottom. It's very cool.
Yeah.
Maybe you could just think of it like a pike with cars stacked on top of it. But it is called a Trans Am Totem. So the idea was that there's some kind of construction that needs to go through this corridor eventually, with the viaducts possibly coming down or being rebuilt. Hopefully they're coming down. But it's been in storage for a while now. And the place that they've decided to move it to is the south end of Granville. So just near Granville Island, there's these parks there. Well, one's a park, the other one's a green space that's owned by the city. And that's where they were planning on moving this. However, some locals have come out to say, we don't want this here. They already built the concrete platform to set this up. It was ready to go. And then, the last minute, the NIMBYs came out and said, no, we don't want this art in our neighborhood. This is ugly. We don't need it here. We need it in a more industrial area. Yeah, not beside all of the car dealerships that are right across the street from this place. Like it just seemed very fitting. But anyway, for now, it's not going there. It's going nowhere. And that is disappointing in itself, because where they were going to put it up is not too far from where I live. And I'd like to see it back on the streets in Vancouver. So I'm disappointed by that. But the reason why I wanted to bring this up wasn't about NIMBYism, wasn't about this one in particular. It's about the fact that we need art in our cities. I feel like it's such an important piece for placemaking. That's something I really saw when I was in Europe, especially in the Netherlands, finding out that they, as a rule, have to allocate a certain percentage of the budget for a project to art. And not only do they just put up a mural or something or a statue, they build it in a way that makes it functional. And one of the great examples was this tunnel in Hilversum. It's a stacked tunnel where there's a top tunnel where there's pedestrians and cyclists, and there's a bottom tunnel for cars. But in the top tunnel, what they've done with the walls is they've drilled all these holes in this aluminum to make it look like trees as you flow through on the walls. But the thing that this also does is reduce the reverberations. And I thought that was brilliant. Anyway, what do you guys think about public art? Do you think this is a necessity, or do you think it's a waste of money?
I think everything should just be blank concrete walls.
Nick, I did want to say, by the way, I meant to say it right at the top of the show, watching your travel videos of the Netherlands, it's been absolutely delightful.
Oh, thank you.
I feel like was on vacation with you, and I love that you talk about local attractions and the local art and not just the bike infrastructure. Like, I came for the bike infrastructure, but I stay for all the other cool stuff too. Like, I love that. So I saw that tunnel in your video. And I thought that was brilliant. And I'm from one of the most public art oriented cities probably on the West Coast, if not in the country. So like, I am totally for it, with a caveat. And that is that some art is ugly to the majority of people. Like, there are things that are very avant-garde, and I have seen public art that go in that direction, like where the artist is trying to be edgy. But once you mention the practicality, I think that helps rein in art. Like, it can't be that avant-garde and crazy if there is something, like if it's trying to provide shade, or if it's part of a fountain. Like, there's a great modern fountain on the Embarcadero in San Francisco that, if it was just some random sculpture, it would be quite ugly because it's mostly made out of metal. But because it's a fountain, it has to have water and drainage and stuff, and it makes this beautiful sound. But so yeah, I think that's an important caveat, and I do think that it's worth the money. That was your question. Definitely.
Yeah, I love
Yeah.
that because there's so many places where you can go and it just feels so dead. And I feel like even just a little bit of art can go a long way. Like there's something we have here in Vancouver. It's a mural walk, which essentially there's murals all over walls of buildings, old and new, where they've set out a path. Be like, if you follow this route, you will get to see a bunch of really cool murals, and they're really well done. They're all sanctioned. This isn't just some random thing that happens. Like these things were paid for. Artists were paid to put up these murals on buildings, and I feel like it just gives so much more flavor to a city. I love it so much.
There
just,
LA Metro does that. Go ahead, Ethan.
Yeah, I love really interactive art pieces within a city that, people wouldn't even think is art, but it very much is. One of my favorite examples is right next to probably one of my least favorite examples. Cloud Gate in Chicago, the Bean, is incredibly popular, but there's an even better sculpture right next to it that I think is significantly better for just the people in the city. I'm going to take over your screen share here. But here, let me see if I can find it.
Cloudgate, so that's the big giant reflective
beam. It is called
beam.
the Crown Tower, the Crown Tower fountains, and these things basically are, it's a public fountain, but they display faces that basically spit water out into like this like wading pool area. It's honestly, it's right in Millennium Park, right next to the Bean, and there's this. It's just such a cool like very contemporary piece of art here that people don't even realize it is because it's a splash pad at the same time. And there's literally water cascading off the side of these things too. I just remember coming here as a kid and like it was like the most awesome place ever. Like it's awesome. Absolutely ridiculous, but it is legitimately one of the coolest pieces of public art I could ever think of.
An electronic face of like, I don't know, some kind of villain from Power Rangers or something.
Back in the 2000s, they scanned a bunch of people's faces to basically be up on this wall. And I think they did it again in like 2015 or something like that to actually have like people's faces be the faces that are spitting water out. It's kind of crazy. And it's not just this one tower here. There's actually another tower just to the south of it. So it's like this like 2-tower fountain that's right in the heart of the city. It's
a weird thing to put on your LinkedIn profile. Like, I'm one of the faces spitting out water at the park. I mean, that's a pretty fun fact.
Honestly, that would make a really great YouTube thumbnail. Talking about public art. Put your face in it.
Here's actually a really good photo that kind of shares like the whole like perspective of honestly one of the best parks in the world, Millennium Park in Chicago. But you've got the Crown Tower fountain in the bottom right. You've got the Bean kind of in the left, and then you have in the back that weird, funky-looking Frank Gehry building. I believe Frank Gehry actually built it. It's the Pritzker Pavilion. It is a giant amphitheater that's outside.
That's cool.
So yeah, in all these cases, well, I don't know about the Bean, but you did mention like child friendly. I think that's another huge thing too. Like absolutely. I think some art is very standoffish. Especially when you go to a museum, the art, they have the little things in front so you can't even touch it. But I think if you're going to do art outside in a city and you're going to do it in a park, it shouldn't be something, because I've seen public art where there's like a little fence around it or something. But I love, I'm not saying it modern or classical style. I'm really just saying like the interactivity. And I
think a lot of people just have this like addiction to this old like classical style of architecture, when it definitely does have its faults. It's not very interactive, and as much as people like to claim it's this beautiful aesthetic, there's a lot of beautiful aesthetics out there. That's just one of them. Yeah, exactly.
Like, I'm not gonna lie, I like modern buildings.
We won't go down that rabbit hole.
I like the old ones too, but a big glass building, I don't mind it. Maybe that's why I live here.
Oh boy.
My great take is my hottest architecture take is that I love brutalism.
Somebody's got to.
You wouldn't want to live in a brutalist city, would you?
I don't know. Honestly, I kind of would.
It's just Gotham. That's what it is.
No. Gotham is Deco, which is way better.
That's true.
The look on my face?
Yeah, when he said he likes brutalism.
No, that's so bad. Oh my gosh. We need to have a whole architecture episode if we're going to talk about that. No, we talk about, listen, in urbanism, we talk about people-oriented things. People-oriented streets and bike lanes and stuff. I think architecture also has a huge people-oriented component, and by that I mean in classical styles. By the way, across cultures, right? When I say classical, I don't mean like Greek. I mean basically most styles before the Great Depression from any culture. The closer you get to a building, the more detail is revealed, and usually that detail was handmade by, and those details had some sort of cultural significance as well. The problem I have with modern buildings is you often see sort of what you might call like the brag shot, where they finish the building and they take a picture of it. And usually when it's a glass skyscraper, it's from far away because it looks like something or it looks cool. But if you walk around those buildings, if they take up a whole block, every face of it looks the same at a 6 foot level. It's just glass and concrete. And there are no interesting nooks and crannies or details to be revealed up close to them. And that's the problem. Like in downtown LA, a lot of the classic old architecture was replaced with these modern towers, and it's just boring. I mean, there's no reason to go up to them and look. And I think too, like what buildings will become, attractions 100 years from now, like places to see.
What about like some kind of hybrid, like the whole tower and pedestal thing where like you can have a glass tower, but the bottom, the base can actually have that character, that nuance and that like granular.
No, that's fine too. I'm just saying most modern architecture doesn't turn out that way because most modern architecture is not a product of design. It's a product of budget. Totally. So, yeah. And they call it modern. And then as far as brutalist is concerned, that's how I feel like about brutalism. Like brutalism is all about the size and largeness and imposing nature. So when you're far away, it looks really cool. But then as you walk along these spaces, it's mostly just rough concrete. And there isn't
I don't know.
much
I think a
to
lot
enjoy.
of these spaces have kind of adapted to actually include a lot of nature in them. I think a lot of people realize that the concrete contrasts very well with, plants. So a lot of, brutalist buildings have started to incorporate that level of nature to it.
That is also true. I'm not saying,
So a lot of people call it eco-brutalism. I still think it's brutalism. It's just you're adding plants. So it's not like you're changing everything about the architecture.
If the plants cover up the architecture. No, I agree that
I'm not
architecture
saying that
should be
brutalism
covered
would
up
be,
with plants.
I'm not saying that brutalism would be great for every building. I'm saying for like civics buildings, like city buildings that are like important features, they can really stand out. Like the library on, what is it, UCSD?
But see, everyone brings up that example because it's a cool looking building. Most brutalist buildings, again, they're products of budget and they're just boring as heck. Another cool one is Boston City Hall, which I visited this summer. But yeah, there's no greenery around it. I mean, it's a place like you're in these old, interesting streets of the North End and downtown, and you walk out of this big plaza and you don't want to spend any time there. Like it's also about the design, right? Like it's very sunny.
I don't know. I think I
hot.
very much enjoyed the Boston Cop slide when I was there.
Ethan just really loves the movie Gattaca. It just hits home, and he's that brutalist style.
That's true. Very true. Many people are saying this.
That was filmed at the Marin County Courthouse.
Oh, was it?
Oh, wow.
There you go.
Designed by Frank Lloyd Wright. That's Frank Lloyd Wright's very last building he designed that got built,
really?
I believe, before he died. So it's his most modern building. It was finished in the late 50s. And it's so cool, like, that it looks like it could be the future, even though it was finished. It's older than brutalism, really, because brutalism is more post-1950s. But
I love that. I love that forward-thinking architecture is just so fascinating. Like, there's that house in Scotland that they're trying to preserve, and it looks very modern, but it was built like 150 years ago. Same with the one in Utrecht, where it was, God, what's that style? I put it in one of my videos anyway. I forget. What's it called with basic colors?
Oh. Bauhaus
Anyway.
is usually colorless.
Anyway.
I hate Bauhaus. I think that's when everything went downhill, but, Like I'm saying, don't forget, a lot of it was just trying to trick you into thinking that it was a new architecture style, when in reality, it was just, we have metal and concrete now, and we don't want to bother hiring artists for detail. I feel like the whole world's been tricked. Because we used to think we demand a higher standard.
Maybe we should get back to that. Is that what you're saying?
You guys do know about the Illinois, right?
The Illinois?
The Illinois? Frank Lloyd Wright's fun little proposal.
No.
Tell us.
He kind of proposed this towards the end of his life, but it was a skyscraper design that he had. He wanted to build I believe it was a mile-tall skyscraper right in the middle of Grant Park in Chicago. It would have looked like this.
Looks like the Burj Khalifa.
It would have been 5 times higher than the Burj Khalifa.
Oh my God.
I believe. Yes. He was absolutely insane with this plan.
But they didn't even have the technology at the time to do that. Like what?
His plan was to basically put a giant concrete pillar into the ground and basically have it stick up and have it be like and build around that giant concrete pillar.
Jeez. That's like, they did start, they were going to build a skyscraper. I know it's not called Sears Tower. What is it actually called?
The
Willis
Sears
Tower?
Tower.
It is
Used
called
to
the
be Willis Tower?
Willis or
It's
Sears.
called the Sears Tower, guys.
Oh.
Let's be
So
real
there's
here.
a hole in the ground right next to the park. There's a circular hole. They were going to build a mega
Yes, the
skyscraper.
Chicago Spire.
Yeah, and that was going to be not as tall as that picture you just showed, but
No, it was going to be the tallest building in the world, I believe. But yeah, it was right along the lakefront. The
They
hole
finished
is
the
still
basement.
there, I believe. Yes.
Yeah, they should turn it into a big jacuzzi.
It got flooded in, and now it's
Bit of
just
a
all water in
jacuzzi.
there.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, I did want to tell you guys one other thing because you mentioned the splash pad. I don't know if I told you the splash pad saga that happened over in Santa Barbara. I don't think
Oh,
I've
boy.
shared that story. It's a short one, don't worry. But basically, we have this town square left over from when Santa Barbara was a Mexican town because town planning back then in Mexico, they'd usually have a town square and they'd put the city hall on one side and they put the town's main church on the other side. Whereas in American towns, they usually have a linear main street without a central plaza. And when Santa Barbara became part of the United States, officially in 1850, when California became a state, they built City Hall on top of this plaza because that's what Americans do. They're like, who needs this open space? But then in 1917, during this whole flourishing of the Spanish sort of new Spanish architecture, you could call it, they tore down that old City Hall and built City Hall next to the plaza, like as they should have, and reopened the plaza. And then phase 2 was going to be, a fountain, trees, benches, the whole 9 yards that you'd have in a real Mexican plaza. But of course, they ran out of money, and then the Depression happened. And so, what do you think happened to the plaza, guys? I want to guess.
Parking lot.
Correct. It turned into a parking lot. To be fair, the parking is only along the edges, and the center is just grass. So it's not terrible, but it's definitely not a feature of the town. And so the town finally got their act together, literally 100 years later, and decided to actually turn this into a plaza. And so they hired a great local design firm, and they were going to put a splash pad in. A splash pad just like the one you were showing in Chicago. There's a great one outside the LA County Courthouse where the water jets sort of shoot out of the ground. I think the tallest ones, come up like 5-6 feet, and kids love it. And there's like an inch deep of water, so no one can drown, and there's drains all the way around it so it doesn't flow out anywhere. And it went before the Historic Landmarks Commission because it's in the historic part of the city. And guess what they said? 2 objections. Can you guess what their 2 objections were?
Not enough
To the
parking.
splash pad.
Oh, to the
No, all the parking is going away anyway. And the
Okay.
Historic Landmarks people actually are not as concerned about it. They're more about aesthetics.
Kids are loud.
Yes, that was the big one, is kids, children in the heart of the city making noise. We can't
God
have that.
forbid.
And then what do you think the other big objection was?
Ruffians will use it to, I don't know, wash themselves.
That is, oh my God, Nick, you are a NIMBY. How do you
Oh,
know
no.
this?
I'm
Yes,
in the
they said
state of
homeless people are going to come by and they're going to use the splash pad to wash their clothes and to wash themselves. And we can't have that outside of City Hall. And also, one guy I remember, he said, which I just thought was very funny, he said it was too monumental. And he said, a friend of mine went over to Ralph's, which is our local grocery store, and he thought that was City Hall because it's too monumental. And so we need to tone this down, which I thought was the funniest. He's like, we never should have approved that Ralph's, back in the day because it looks like City Hall. And I was like, no, it doesn't. It says Ralph's in giant red letters. Like,
what do you mean?
most
This is
grocery
City
stores.
Hall.
So anyway, they toned it down, and the compromise that they reached is it's still a splash pad with a maximum water jet height of 3 inches. So I don't know, and it's like, okay, what's even the point at that point? Why not just do a traditional fountain? But I remember that whole saga. I wrote an article about it in the local paper. I'm like, what even are we talking about? Why have a bench because a homeless person, or God forbid, a child might sit on it? It's like, why plant a tree? What if someone enjoys its shade? It's like the giving tree in reverse. Like, why do anything? But yeah, that's the splash pad saga. of Santa
That's an
Barbara.
incredible saga.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
It's actually a miracle that you got that splash pad.
Well, would you even call it splash? I mean, I don't know
Sorry,
if
the
there's
little
going to be a
puddle.
splash. The puddle pad. Yeah.
You
At
know,
least
I
on
gotta
warm
say, I'm looking
days.
at this Ralph's in Santa Barbara. This is quite imposing.
You want to share your screen?
This is
Does it look
this
like
is,
City Hall? It's the Ralph's
Yeah.
in downtown. I don't think there's
Yes,
another
yes,
Ralph's.
it's the one in the like classic style. I'm trying to find a photo of the
Yes.
outside of it.
Yeah, this is Classic Historic Landmarks Commission. They make sure that it looks good, but they don't make sure the urbanism is good, because the part facing the street is just a blank wall, even though it's Spanish revival style, the building. Also, the inside is a complete mess of this Ralph's. It's like I don't shop there. It's a disaster. I don't know who's in charge.
Maybe it's you. You could be in charge.
I don't want to be in charge of Ralph's.
I've never heard of Ralph's. Is this a good spot?
It's like it's one of Kroger's like
Oh, okay.
regional chains. Everything's a Kroger or an Albertsons
No.
in the U.S.
What
Can you guys
about,
think of a grocery store that doesn't end with a "s" sound, like with an S sound?
Publix,
That still ends with that sound. I'm saying, like,
Oh, like that's
Fred
like a
Meyer,
S.
okay, there you go. I noticed
Safeway.
that.
What's that one Trader? Oh, nope. Trader
Yeah.
Joe's
Safeway
Meyer,
doesn't exist
Safeway.
anymore. Safeway's
Yes, it
not a thing.
does.
Oh, just
Safeway's-
not where I am.
exists
It's
here.
not where you are.
Okay, they turned all the
Safeway
Safeways
is
into
just down the
pavilions.
street.
That's the Ralph's. There you go. That's
Very imposing. This is City Hall.
Would you walk up to that and think it was City Hall?
Is that City
Yes,
Hall or
I'm
is that's a
yeah.
grocery store?
No,
See,
that's
you
the
can
Ralph's.
tell.
That's the Ralph's.
I don't think that's imposing.
Someone get the cart narcs here. There's a
Yeah.
shopping cart there.
Lazy Bones.
All
That's
right.
not where the cart goes.
Now show us City Hall. We should decide which one looks more imposing. I'll show you the plaza. It's like 3 blocks away. I love seeing all the red roofs from this angle. Yeah. So there's City Hall. You can see the dead grass.
I mean,
So you're on the side of City Hall. You want to go
that
up
side
to the
looks
front
like
of it.
the grocery store.
There you go. So there's the plaza. There's the City Hall.
I could see why
Yeah.
he
It's
mistaken.
very imposing.
And that tree in the front is 200 years old. That's a very old tree.
What kind of tree is that?
A pepper tree. It has
tree.
peppercorns, like peppercorns that you put on your
Really?
food. They
Oh,
come
yeah.
from a tree.
Oh, I don't do that. They're too
Oh,
spicy.
wow.
Wait,
Hey, look.
you think?
Just kidding. 8 jalapenos raw. Don't worry.
Meanwhile, the building at the end of the plaza is the Santa Barbara News Press, which is the second oldest newspaper in all of California. It's been running since 1875, except that it just went bankrupt a few months ago because there was a billionaire lady who bought it from the New York Times. She ran it for 10 years, and then she endorsed Donald Trump in 2016, which is funny because only 2 newspapers in the country did that, the other one being the Arizona Sun.
You know,
And in Santa Barbara, I think maybe 20% of people, if that, voted for Donald Trump in 2016. So
that could be forgivable in 2016. Almost.
You know, I gotta.
no,
I gotta
I feel like that's
say-
more crazy to endorse him then, because like you didn't know what you were getting. I feel like like I don't know.
That's why it's forgivable.
God, I
Now
can't
you
wait till
know.
California gets rid of these palms here. My goodness, look at all the shade they're providing.
I know. So
What's
yeah, they're
the-
gonna
what's
plant
like
some
a-
shade trees.
Well, yeah. What's a local tree that should be there?
There
Pepper
are
trees.
none. The pepper trees are not local either.
There's no trees, just bushes.
We could have. Yeah, no. I mean, you could do coastal oaks, but they take like 100 years to actually get shady.
Just call them cokes. Come on. Simplify that a little bit.
Yeah, and then that's where I give my walking tours, at that old house at the end of the plaza. So if you're ever in Santa Barbara, I'll tell you what that house is about, but I'm not giving away that information for free.
Not yet. I'll be there.
Yes. Yeah.
In
please.
2028.
Oh. Come sooner, Nick.
Sorry, no,
Jeez.
I can't do it. Do you have a story today? We're just. You
I
had a
do.
story.
I have 2 stories. And
Wait, no,
Discussing
you get
Santa
one.
Bar-
You got one
You get
story.
one.
That's the rule.
We are running close on time as is.
Okay. I'll give you one story because we did talk about Santa Barbara. My other story was also about Santa Barbara. So instead, we'll move up the coast and talk about San Francisco. And I will share my screen. I'm
love
the only
San
one who
Fran.
hasn't shared it yet today. I absolutely love San Francisco. Let's see. Now, here is a article that is very provocatively titled for the Urbanists. Do lower speed limits reduce car crashes? Do they? No, it's just a kind of a clickbait title. It's actually a very good article
No
in
one
a
looked
thing
until
I've never heard
now.
of called The Frisk. 100% San Francisco.
Yeah, we were.
So, and they are correct. Nobody looked until now. Basically, the story is about how in 2014, San Francisco pledged to be a Vision Zero city. And for those of our listeners who don't know what that means, Vision Zero is a pledge to reach zero traffic fatalities by whatever year the Vision Zero plan sets out. And it was invented by the Swedish. And basically, it relies on three big things, which is engineering, education, and enforcement. Usually, American cities go big on the education and enforcement, not so big on the engineering, which is funny because the original Vision Zero cities in Sweden have said many times that you have to go all in on the engineering or it doesn't work. And here in San Francisco, the Vision Zero goal was to 2024, which is now a year ago. And unfortunately, last year was actually the decade's highest for traffic fatalities. So not only did Vision Zero not work, the traffic fatalities went up the entire time it was supposed to be in place. And so what this reporter was then wondering is, okay, well, what's the data? What streets are dangerous? Why are they dangerous? What has San Francisco built? And it turns out nobody knows. The city has not done a Vision Zero review, even though the 10-year period came and went. They did not do an assessment of what type of infrastructure works and what doesn't. And so while this journalist couldn't do a full city review, and by the way, what is this journalist's name? I should credit them. Christy Cole. Kind of a cool name, actually. Anyway, Christy, she looked at, first of all, there's a backlog. Only 33 speed cameras have been put up in the entire city of San Francisco. And also, the speed bump program is 3 years behind schedule. So that has not helped. But the most interesting part of this article is actually the review that she did. So she looked at 12 segments of the high injury network. And the high injury network is pretty cool as well. It's basically every city in California has a high injury network. And it's the share of streets that they're far less than 50% of the streets, but they make up more than 50% of the crashes. And it's usually your classic stroads and 4-lane roads and stuff like that. And in San Francisco's case, one sort of progressive thing they did do is they lowered the speed limit to 20 miles per hour along a lot of these streets. And the Christie here, she looked at 12 of them. And here's what's interesting. 8 of the 12, the percent change in fatalities and collisions has gone down. The biggest being 56% and the lowest being 14%. But here's a weird thing. On the remaining 4, those things have gone up. Even on streets with some physical changes, which is kind of weird. The weirdest one of all is called Eddy Street between Powell and Van Ness. And it has seen an 81% increase in collisions.
Ugh.
After they lowered the speed limit. And she says that she sent this data to SFMTA and the guy had no idea. He was like, I don't know. And here's what was surprising. When I read this, I was like, okay, Eddy Street must be some like ridiculous stroke. And then I scroll down. Here's what it looks like.
Yeah.
What is going on here? So for those who are not looking, it's literally just a 2-lane road with parking. And the buildings on each side are like 5 stories. So, it feels very closed in, very urban. And there are trees. And there are even bulb outs, like you can see here. So I don't know what's going on this street. I don't know why there's been an 81% increase in collisions. But what do you guys think?
That seems like an isolated incident. There's something going on there that's making that happen. But I'm wondering, with the 20 speed limits change, was there any functional difference to the streets? Or they're just slapping signs down?
Yeah, that is a great... Let's see. She says...
It is an interesting street because it is in the Tenderloin. So
that's true.
Well, yeah, that
I don't know if that's caused any sort of issues there.
By the way, the Tenderloin is known as kind of like the homeless area of San Francisco.
Yes,
it's right? Kind of San Francisco's equivalent to Skid Row, basically.
Yeah.
Granted, nowhere near as like as anywhere near as bad, but it's still pretty bad.
So actually, yeah, they've implemented no turns on reds. Let's see here.
Ooh, that is a good question from chat here.
What is the chat? What is the question?
Skitch, one of our live viewers. How? Wait a minute, guys. How can you become a live viewer?
You can join Patreon for just
Yeah.
$1 a month, as little as $1 a month.
It's a pretty good deal, I must say. But yeah, Skitch in our live chat just asked the question: are the injuries severe with collisions?
No, this chart just shows collisions.
Yeah.
Got
So
it.
not severe.
Yeah,
not
Sketch in the
severity.
chat makes a great point. It's not necessarily a bad thing if there's more crashes if they're not severe. Massachusetts has the most crashes, but the lowest death rate. Yeah, but you typically see when you lower the speed limit is fewer crashes because typically when people are going slower, crashes can be more preventable.
Yeah. And here's one thing that I thought was also interesting. In Seattle, she compares Seattle because they actually did do their own city review. They lowered their speed limits to 20 miles per hour on residential streets and 25 on arterials. And just from lowering the speed limits, they found that crashes dropped 22% and injury crashes, to answer Skitch's question, fell 18%.
Well, it said
and
fatal
quote,
crashes
egregious.
dropped 22%. Yeah, and injury crashes fell 18%.
Oh yeah, fatal dropped 22. Yes.
Yeah.
So here's what's interesting. Apparently, there's an independent study that also corroborated the safety findings. Cities lowering speed limits should not wait too long to modify signs to remind drivers to maximize the safety benefits. And I read further on in this article, they say they find basically like just changing the signs does actually lower speeds, but only by 1 to 2 miles per hour. So,
Ooh.
it's not nothing. And also, it's interesting, including on streets that did not receive new limits but are adjacent to the ones that did. So basically, people's behaviors change where they assume that all the streets have been lowered, not enough for them to care to lower their speeds 5 miles per hour, but enough to lower it 2 miles per hour.
It's
So,
something. Yeah.
There
Well-
is a change, marginal as it is.
I mean, yeah, that's in San Francisco, but the changes that they did in Seattle, that's fantastic. Like if you could say to your population, "Hey, we're going to reduce the deaths on our roads by 22%." What do you say? Be like, "Yeah, let's do that. That's a good idea." Whatever it is.
I don't know. That might impede traffic flow.
But what if it doesn't? Because that's not how traffic works.
Okay, but that's a what if, and we know. So let's
and
keep
I
the
know
status
that when I'm
quo.
going slower, there's more traffic.
And
That's
when
true.
I know I'm going slower, I'm pissed off. So
So one thing I wanted to share with you, because this article was so interesting to me, I kind of went down a bit of a rabbit hole. And actually, I found a publicly accessible data source that anyone can look at called the Caltrans Vulnerable Road Users Assessment. And I found out that my boss at work actually helped make this, which is kind of cool. So you have all these different options here. And here, let's see. What do you guys want to see? Do you want to see first of all, you can just look at activity density, not crash rates. But let's look at bicycle fatal and serious injury crashes. And this is very cool, by the way, because this is for the entire state of California. So it took them quite a while to make this. And they have a live map and a report where you can look at, the top 20 cities that have an outsized share of crashes and stuff. So yeah, here, I'll zoom out so you can see the whole state. So there you go.
That's a nice state.
Yeah. Yes. I think so. But yeah, so these I guess are in like large some semi-square mile hexagons for the crash rate data. And the activity density data is also very fascinating, I think, for for transit planners, because I think there's often assumptions made of like where cyclists and pedestrians want to go and what they want to do. And here I'll show you. But if you look at the bicycle activity density, I was looking in LA, a lot of the current bike travel patterns are actually sort of like a mirror image of the car travel patterns. So a great example is here. So one of the most popular, or probably not popular, just busy routes to drive on in Los Angeles is Wilshire Boulevard. It's LA's main street. It's 4 to 6 lanes wide, depending on where you are. Basically, no bike activity there. Not a big surprise. 1 block north of Wilshire, on I believe Sixth Street, is where you can see this line of bike activity happening, which makes sense because the cyclists are avoiding the Strode, but they're paralleling it, probably to access destinations along it. So yeah, I just thought that was kind of interesting to see. For all of LA, this is the bike activity,
That's awesome.
and it's highest around UCLA, which is not a big surprise, and also USC, which is right here.
I'm shocked.
Yeah,
More
and
students use bicycles.
Santa Monica. Look at this. Santa Monica is building more bike infrastructure than any other city in the LA region, and it's paying off. So good for them. But yeah, so we'll link this, I guess, in the description of the show for anyone who wants to explore, because you could be on here for hours looking at all kinds of stuff. And that is today's story.
Nice.
I like that. I like that a lot.
Love
we
that.
do have a question here from one of our Patreon members, Jack. Jack says, I thought I'd share the oddest piece of urbanism on my commute. Bicycle slip lane. I got me thinking, what are some unconventional infrastructure implementations you've seen, whether they are effective or not, made in the name of bike and pedestrian safety? So let me share Jack's slip lane, because you need to see it.
Yeah.
I think, to really understand what that's about. So it's basically a gutter bike lane. As he approaches the intersection, it splits with that kind of hash mark to the left. But if you continue going straight and you want to turn right, there's a protected slip lane just for cyclists that you can go through. And I'm not sure I've ever seen anything like that before. Not on the street. You know, you go to the Netherlands, you do all sorts of stuff, but usually it's grade separated. But yeah, that is pretty impressive. And where is that? Is that in California or Georgia?
Yeah,
That's
I think
in
he said
California.
San Mateo.
Yeah.
I was about to say, like, there's no way that would be in Georgia.
No.
I got one. So there's been an update here in Vancouver. A new bicycle bridge is essentially open. So there's 3 main bridges from kind of South Vancouver, south of downtown, to the peninsula. 2 of them have bike lanes they've had for quite a while, but they've just opened a new one last month. And what they've done is they've basically taken away a lane for cars. Not really. It's still 6 lanes for cars, but they've made space for a bidirectional bike lane and extended the sidewalk onto the road, essentially. And what they've done is they've had preliminary, or at least temporary benches with ramps, so they're accessible. So this has caused a big stink, at least in the Vancouver subreddit. I think people are overreacting, but I'm going to try to share this so you guys can take a gander. This is just some aerial footage I took last week, and you can see these little yellow surrounded things. Essentially, it's just asphalt they've built up with a ramp to get to this bench and access the sidewalk, so it's accessible. People are going nuts about this. Like I said, I think they're overreacting, and people.
Why do they not like it? That cyclists might come up onto the sidewalk?
I think it's because the way that people have taken photos from it. They took photos from the bike lane, and you couldn't see the barrier, so people just thought you were in this bump out right next to traffic, which isn't the case. I'm not saying it's a great place to sit down. There's still tons of traffic. There's a nice view if you look north. But if people need to sit down when they're trying to cross the bridge, it's good to have that there. That's what I think. But I thought it is kind of weird, though.
I do like that the arrows on the road look like they were done in like giant duct tape.
like that, yeah.
Yeah, it's like a gigantic child just like put down some duct tape and rough arrows.
How about you guys?
That's awesome, though.
Do you have any answers here for Jack's question?
I love his question. And by the way, meanwhile in California, we are trying to take a bike lane off of the Richmond Bay Bridge. Not the main Bay Bridge, but the one that goes from Richmond, whatever it's called. I don't remember what it's called. But I got an email from CalBike about that. No, but I loved his question because there's something fascinating in the world of bike infrastructure. In the Netherlands, it's so consistent, right? Everywhere you go across the country, it's red. You know where you're supposed to be. And in America, it's like that with roads, right? You can go anywhere across the U.S. So like when I went to the East Coast for the first time, it felt very foreign on the one hand. But on the other hand, one thing that I think makes places feel foreign are the signs and stripes on the roads. I mean, I really do. So it's always double yellow. It's always white on the side, double yellow in the middle. All the signs always look the same. Bike infrastructure, there is no guidebook. Other than like like, so cities just will like randomly, like I've been to a couple cities where they're like, oh, we don't like green paint, we're gonna do like blue instead, and you're like, okay, and there's no rule that you can't. I mean, you there's certain federal funding sources that you need to follow certain regulations to do. And so I love his question because there are these little gems of like where some random city planner, and I've met city planners like this, has it in their head like, oh, I'm gonna do this random bike slip lane here. So there's actually along my commute a piece of infrastructure like that. It's a little bit less interesting, but along 4th Street in Los Angeles, it was their best attempt at a greenway. They didn't put down a single modal filter along the length of it because nobody wanted one. So instead, they put these weird little yellow bollard things that ostensibly slow down traffic a little bit. And they put up 15-mile-per-hour signs, and they put down sharrows. And other than that, it's the same as it was before. And I bike along, a good like 4 to 5 mile stretch of it on one random intersection. I don't know why they picked this one, not a different one. There's the pole that has the pedestrian push button. And on the other side of it, there's like a custom made bike push button. And it's actually like the label even is green to match like the color of bike lanes.
Does it have like a ticking counter on it?
No, it's like a pedestrian push button. It's the same thing where it's like a flat button where you push it and there's a little tiny red LED in the middle. And it has a little thing that says, bikes to cross street, bikes push here or whatever. And it's super inconvenient to use because usually there's a car that's trying to turn right against the curb and you're usually biking in the middle of the road. But if there isn't a car turning right, you have to go out of your way and pull up, put your foot up on the curb and press this little dedicated bike beg button. And there isn't one on the other side. It's just this little, and I know that some planner who worked on this project sitting there was like, oh, there's a little bit of extra budget. I'm going to put it for one of these. They have them, I heard that they have them in some other place and we're going to do one. And I don't know how many pushes it gets a day, but I just think it's a cute little Easter egg along my bike journey each
Where
day.
exactly is
rarely
that?
use it. I am going to show you. Why not?
Okay,
How
please
about
do.
that? Yes,
I
I
would
know.
like
I
to
just
see
talked
it.
about this whole thing. I'm sure you're quite curious about it. Let
Ethan,
me
do you have
share.
an example, perhaps?
I mean, I think one of my favorite things not favorite, but like least favorite things is just seeing like the half-hearted infrastructure that you'll see at some points. Probably my greatest example of this is this cycle track in Portland that goes on for about 2 blocks before it just ends.
Oh yeah, I love those.
Yeah, so this was created. It was like a little, like basically like student project that was led by one of the local universities that has like an urban design program and teams up with the city's Bureau of Transportation. And it was the city's real first attempt at a cycle track that wasn't like along like a body of water. So it was a cycle track running on like the middle of a road. And this one only goes for 2 blocks because the mayor, who was mayor at the time in Portland, his name's Ted Wheeler, he biked around sometimes and he was afraid of cycle tracks. He didn't understand how they worked and he was terrified of them.
That's fair.
Is it?
No,
It also beautifully ends on a one-way as well. So if you're cycling southbound on the cycle track, you have to make a left.
that's pretty bad. Because like I'm thinking here in Vancouver, there's a few of those where like they've built an actual grade separated bike lane, but just for a block, and then it sends you directly right back into traffic across a parking lane.
Yeah, one of my least favorite bike lanes in the city literally changes the infrastructure every block.
Oh,
It is so annoying.
That's what I mean. There's no standardization.
yeah.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. I'll show you guys this if you want.
Yeah,
Here,
why don't you
I'll-
share yours? This is just very quickly to answer Nick's. This
There
is
it
what
is.
it looks like.
The big button. Yeah, it's the silver
just-
touch sensitive.
Here we go.
big
So it
button.
kind of
there.
starts out over here. There's actually a bike light at the intersection back over here.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
But painted bike lane starting out, perfect door zone bike lane. Continues being a door zone bike lane for another block. But then it decides to hit you with the brain melter. So there's no more parking. There's no more door zone here, which is great. Love that. And then it throws you right back into the middle of the intersection because there's a turn lane that comes up here. So you have to change from this corner bike painted bike lane to basically riding in between lanes here,
Yay.
which always sucks. And then you're doing this for another block, and there's always a bus sitting here because this is the end of a bus line. So you always have to pass a bus here.
That's
Wonderful piece
exhaust.
of infrastructure. It continues up in this door zone here through up along Jefferson. It goes back to not being a door zone once again.
Another gutter bike lane.
And continues being a gutter bike lane. It has gotten a little bit better. They did paint this here, but regardless,
It goes back to
more
being a door zone.
more door zones. Continues being a door zone here, but we're coming up on
Back
the
to
real
gutter.
brain melter here. It turns into a bike bus lane
Oh, no.
for one block, for exactly one block, and then it's back to being actually a not
That's
horrible.
a buffered
buffered.
gutter bike lane. Here
And
you
this
go.
is
What?
this is called P-bot standards clashing, and then
This
it even
one?
gets flexi posts by this point, and then it's
Buffered
flexi posts all the way
gutter
back.
bike lane.
So I
So-
think that this affects ridership. I think it affects people's views of bike infrastructure. Like there's something in the Netherlands about that. Like it's like, were you the type of kids in school, or did you know the types of kids that had the colored binders for each class? You know,
Yeah.
where it's
I
like
did.
Like,
English.
there's a
got
stand-
your English for me was green. I had a green binder and a green highlighter, and like I knew it was English. You know, and it's like in the Netherlands,
So-
it's red. You know where you're supposed to go. And then in America, we have this like it's painted green at intersections, and sometimes it's not, and it's like, oh.
Yeah.
So P-bot has kind of like fixed its standard at this point to its painted bike lanes. A lot of these painted bike lanes that you see, like that I showed earlier on in the door zone, are like early 2000s painted bike lanes. They're due for upgrades, and so it's been kind of all this piecemeal infrastructure fixing.
Hello, cat.
Hello, cat. I think we're
friendly
coming
show.
to the end of the show
Yeah.
here.
Yes.
Let's get to the mind that map. Name that map. Sully, show us the map.
Okay.
Show us the
I'll
map.
show you
Sully.
the
And
map.
we've already seen the map before the show. We know where it
Make
is.
sure it's open.
Let's give the audience a look at it.
Yeah.
Share. What? Screen. Sorry, my mouse is acting up, of course.
Yes, this is Izzy.
Entire
She's
screen.
making buns on her bed right now. She's in a good mood.
Window.
And she's
okay.
very curious.
There's the map. So, first of all, you guys figured out what city it was, which is...
Copenhagen.
Copenhagen.
It is Copenhagen. And for those not looking, it's an aerial view of Copenhagen. We're zoomed out not too far. And there's all this red stuff going on. It kind of looks like it's along the streets. Maybe not. You guys want to give your final guesses for what information this map is trying to convey?
I'm gonna go with bike parking in the city.
Bike
I'm gonna
parking.
guess that this is a bike.
I was going to
parking
say
map.
street parking, but it's on the bridges
Ooh.
too.
Nick, you are very, very close. You're very
Metered
close.
parking?
No, I'm going to show you exactly what it is. But that was a pretty good guess. Let's see. Now I got to show you this guy's LinkedIn page where I got it. It is an AI map of every parked car in
Oh, wow.
Copenhagen.
Oh wow!
Yes. So this guy posted about this new AI program, and it can identify cars from aerial imagery and combine it into a map. So it's kind of a map of street parking, but I guess it's a map of occupied street parking.
Yeah. I mean, it's how
And,
accurate is it? It's hard to say, right? Because they mix images and stuff, but it'll be probably like a good estimate.
Yes.
Yeah.
And he says, here's what he says is the usefulness. It says, it's been applied to the 15 largest Nordic cities, including Oslo, Stockholm, and Helsinki. And he says, in the example below, you can see that Copenhagen, often praised for its excellent bike infrastructure, still dedicates a significant amount of space to car parking. This kind of tool helps cities reimagine how space is used and opens up possibilities for transforming public areas into more inviting, human-friendly spaces. So can you guys think of an example, and I'm asking an open question because I actually don't know, of an example of how this map might be more helpful than just a map of street parking in terms of, wanting to do some kind of infrastructure change in the city?
I think, well, it's like pretty shocking. Be like, oh yeah, there's a lot of cars in the city, but also you can see places where there is space. You can see it's not all occupied. You have room
Yeah.
for more stuff, so you can say, hey, not all of our streets are occupied. Not every spot is occupied. We have space for other things. That maybe could be an argument you come away with. Maybe.
Yeah, like definitely I'm looking at this street here compared to this one, and like these spots are not occupied. So maybe that's where, you know, your parklet goes, or your bike parking or whatever. But yeah, I thought it was cool. And obviously the people who did this worked pretty hard on it to get this algorithm working. So there you go. That was this week's Name That Map.
What do you call this, man?
That was this week's Name
That map.
Yes. Oh, and I should say the name of the company is Beta Mobility for anyone interested.
That's just somebody on a bicycle, isn't it?
What?
Yeah, Beta Mobility. Alpha Chad
Oh,
moving around
just,
is
yeah.
I get it. I
in a
get
nice
it.
Ford
Haha.
F350.
By the way,
Yeah.
Aaron Hagee McKay of the Goose Media just released a video on YouTube, and it was fantastic. It's about toxic masculinity. Very entertaining, very funny, very informative too.
Yes. That's what this
And-
show is all about.
This is the Toxic Masculinity podcast.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's called "The Manosphere is Destroying the Biosphere," featuring Professor Neil. Yeah, it was very good. And the term that this professor had about toxic masculinity was restrictive masculinity. And I was like, I like that. Because it sticks you in this box that you have to be in, and we're trying to break out of that. Anyway,
Nick, I think you've just created a new segment on our podcast, which is our favorite YouTube video of the week.
sure.
Top
we
recommendation.
need more segments, right? We don't have enough stuff to talk about,
No. There's never enough stuff to talk about.
except for now. Ethan, take it away.
Folks, thank you so much for tuning into the show today. I want to thank our live audience here today. Skitch being the one person who talked in chat. If there was anybody else in chat, feel free to mention that you were here watching, because our live audience is wonderful. They tune into us every Thursday night. We also had Ben Min as well in the live chat too. And I want to thank them for tuning in here. And you can join that live chat for how much, guys?
$1. As
$1.
little, sorry, we have to be specific. As little as $1.
As little as $1
open to more.
can get you into our live chats here. You can also get a whole bunch of other benefits. You'll get access to our Discord. You'll get access to the show as soon as it's done. So even if you can't make the live show, you'll beat it to, wherever it's being posted up on YouTube, wherever else. You'll get access to it before anybody else there. You can also just support the channel as well, too, and we really appreciate all of our patrons for supporting, watching live, and talking with us in the Discord, sending us links to stuff, and overall being great, bothersome people. We love them. Yeah, thank you so much for tuning into this episode of Radio Free Urbanism. Nick, where can the good people find you?
You can find me on YouTube, Instagram, and Blue Sky at Nick the Door. How about you, Sully?
You can find me on all those places as well at Sullyville. And I finally published a video today after 2 months, so go check it out.
Congrats.
Let's go.
It was a good watch. I enjoyed it.
Thank you, Nick.
I'm going to be watching it after this show. Folks, you can find me over at Climate and Transit on pretty much every platform. Thank you so much for watching this episode of Radio Free Urbanism once again. And as always, train good, car bad.
2 wheels good.
2 feet fantastic.